All photographs are just light captured in one form or another. Light from a distant star that comes back to us so that we can bring it to life. Film is essentially 24 still images per second, while respectively TV is 30 still images per second. Learning how to manipulate these single frame images is a great way to fully grasp how we can manipulate film itself. First, to understand how to manipulate both photographs and film, we have to understand how to control light. Whether it's lighting our subject or letting light into the camera or video camera. Light is the greatest tool for any cinematographer or photographer. So we're going to start out by looking at some basic lighting setups. First, we got to learn what practical is. A practical is essentially any light that you can see in the film or in the photograph itself. Here's an example where when you look at this picture, the lamp is actually lighting our actor. In this other picture, we have the laptop that is actually the only source of light in the picture. So this is a great way to start building. Put a light in, and then after that, you can add lights in order to fill out some of the shadows. Or you can leave it in if you like this really dark contrast shadow look. Now, the standard lighting setup is called the three-point lighting system. This is essentially with a key light, a fill light, and a backlight. Now, your fill light, you're going to want to be at about half of what your key light is. This is so that you can pull off shadows on one side of the object. Say you're shooting a person's face. On one side, you want it fully illuminated, while on the other, you want to create depth by adding just a little bit of shadow. The backlight is used to basically pop your object off of the background. Sometimes if you shoot with too much light in the front, your object will tend to blend into the background. The backlight ensures that there's a slight halo of light around your object, which makes it stand out from the background. So here are a couple variations on what we've been talking about. This is a two-light setup. Simply on the right side, there's the key light, and on the left side, the fill light. You can notice that there is a tiny bit of shadow coming from the nose, and that the left side of the face is slightly darker than the right. But there is no backlight. The intention was to have me blur into the background. This was because I kind of liked the way the soft focus looked. I didn't want to have too much light, and I didn't want to pop out. I wanted to essentially blend in and become one with the background. Now, the next lighting setup we're going to look at is simply just a key light to the left of my face. It's tilted a little bit towards the background, as you can see, because the right side of the background is more illuminated than the left side. Now, the left side of my face is almost entirely overexposed, while the right side of my face is almost entirely in shadow. This is just a very high contrast shot, and I liked the way it looked. Lighting is always just a preference, and the best way to do it is just to move lights around and test to see what you like. Everybody has their own style, and everybody has to essentially invent their own way of doing it. The next method we're going to look at manipulating photos is by utilizing shutter speed. Shutter speed is essentially how long your camera stays open and how long light enters your camera. Now, for the image that you're looking at now, I set the camera on a 30-second shutter speed and ask the actor every 10 seconds to move his hand closer to his head. This makes his hand almost, transparent and takes the opacity down, but it gives the effect that the bullet is moving towards his head. The next image we're going to look at is the one where we whited out the eyes of our actor. Now, in no way were any of these images photoshopped. It was simply just allowing light to enter the camera and using our own techniques to manipulate it how we saw fit. In this one, we again put a long shutter speed on and asked our actor to hold his head as still as possible while he moved his eyes around as fast as possible. Much like the hand in the previous image, it made the opacity of his pupil go down, almost giving his eye a glossy, slightly darker look. Now our actor is standing on train tracks, just in front of a crossing. This allows for cars to drive behind him. In this photo, only 2 cars drove by, but since the shutter speed was on for so long, and he held still for so long, although you can see a little bit of blur on the edges, we were able to capture the lights of the cars that drove by. This picture is very similar to the last one in the fact that our actor stood still in front of a street so that we could get the lights of cars going by. The only difference was that we asked him to stand there for 20 seconds with a 30-second exposure and then run as fast as he could off frame so that we could get a car driving through and almost look like the lights were going through him. Again, light is everything when it comes to photography and film. The best way to learn about it is simply just to take a camera and go test it out. Try a 10-second exposure, move a little bit, grab a glow stick, try to write your name in a 20-second exposure with all the lights off at your house. Just test and try and see what you prefer. That's the beauty of taking pictures. It's all about your preference. It's not about mine. It's not about any teachers. It's not about art critics. It's about whatever you like. So just take a light and go out and try and see what you come up with.